Chris, Jaques, welcome to the interview. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks, Martin, for having me. Appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure to have you. Well, look, for the benefit of the audience, it would be great if you wouldn't mind just giving a quick intro on yourself, your background, your work, and then we can get started.
Absolutely. I'm Chris Jaques, currently working in sales enablement at Stripe, supporting our velocity sales teams globally. I've been in the payments industry for 11 years now. I've worked at Braintree, PayPal, and a few startups as well. Usually going back and forth between enablement and working with our sales teams and customer success teams as a manager. So I love this stuff.
I love it. I always say that at my previous company, we were a digital health company. So we sold primarily to insurers. This company, Simbi, we sell directly to salespeople. The biggest difference, I love selling to sales teams because they're optimists, they're positive, right? And it's a really great environment. Whereas selling to insurers, they're pessimistic, right? They're risk averse by definition.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the energy of sales is always fun to work with, especially in the velocity space. More junior sellers, high energy, always want to get better, and bringing them tools and resources that help them is very exciting.
Totally. And talk about high energy. So this entire campaign that we're doing is all around Q4, aka business case season, right? And we all know, I've had it from the vendor side. I'm sure buyers also get that sense of that energy that comes and is unique to Q4. I would love for you to explain, what does Q4 mean to you? Q4, could be fiscal, it can be calendar, but generally that last quarter that you've got of the year.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that Q4 means to me. It's a great time to reset as a sales professional. So however those first three quarters went, so be it. It's in the past. Q4 is your time to really set yourself up for success next year. And it's the most natural alignment between your goals going into the next year and what your clients are trying to achieve. So we always talk about like matching the energy and the pace and the process of your clients. Well, guess what? Q4, everybody brings their proposals to the table across the business. You want to make sure your ROI is meaningful and material to your potential clients. And you get this very natural, I'm putting this together. We have our big meeting in the middle of October, end of October, whatever it is. And it's very natural to get evaluated, make decisions on the next year, fit yourself into an engineering roadmap. It's the perfect time to get all those pieces into place. Whereas other parts of the year, you might be jamming yourself into a roadmap, or maybe they don't look at projects on a Q1, Q2 basis. But Q4, we all do it. We all bring our proposals, ideas, and asks to the table, and we see where the money falls.
And I love that concept of alignment, right? Because I'd love if you were ready to explain a little bit more. I think we all understand from the vendor side why Q4 is important. You want to hit your targets, get that commission, make President's Club, all that, all the good stuff, right? What is it on the buyer side that would drive that same alignment?
I think this is where we really dig into the personal aspect of buying. Too often we ignore that, people are putting their ideas, their projects, their initiatives up to bat against many other things that the business is considering. And those people want to be successful. They have their own goals. They're going to have their annual review come March of next year, what have you. So how do they make a name for themselves? What are they going to stake their claim to? If you and the prospective client are doing something that is meaningful to the business, now they look more senior, will get those promotions. So leaning into that personal aspect is very exciting.
I can totally see that, right? Because you're talking about there is a race to get budget on the buyer side too, right? Because there are stakeholders, there's limited budget available for the next year. And so how do you make sure that you're enabling your buyer also to bring an initiative that's important enough to get that attention from budget?
100%.
And as somebody who handles enablement, which is a pretty critical role across a sales team, right? Ultimately, your goal is to enable sales teams to perform at their highest level. How do you train them around this period, around seeking alignment, equally around not being pressured too much on discounting? Because we can talk about the D word in a moment. But yeah, how do you train sales reps, specifically a higher velocity, who may traditionally be some of the more junior reps, to hold their own during Q4?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime we're doing enablement or talking to our reps, we want to set them up for success for where they're going to go in their sales career. And as you get into those enterprise sales, and that's what these sellers want to become, it's a long process. You have to be patient. We know we want to rush and close deals in Q4, but take a little bit broader mindset of like, how can I set the framework for a very strong next year by doing things the right way, by building those business cases collaboratively? So that's really one message. Like, as you grow in your sales career, this is what you want to become. This is actually what Q4 will mean to you. Right now, in the velocity, you want to close those deals, accumulate your quota, but you're about to move up to a position where you set the groundwork in Q4, you get reviewed early Q1, the project starts in Q2. You have to have that longer term mindset. So it's a balancing act, but we always want to prepare people for that next level. And that's really the purest form of Q4 to me.
Must be a really fulfilling role on the
So fun.
enablement side. Yeah,
Yeah. 100%. It's you kind of get to magnify your impact, get to see so many deals, so many different ways that people address their job, do their job, and then you
totally.
get to learn from the best.
And how do you spot? In other words, what makes there's all within most sales teams, there's always those reps who are overperforming
Mhm.
quarter on quarter, year on year. What specific characteristics define those individuals and those who always hit Q4 and nail it?
Yeah. I like to oversimplify this one. I am a very strong believer in that it all boils down to your process. Best salespeople know their own process inside and out. They can take their prospective clients on the journey of their process, make it feel very comfortable, but everything is moving the deal forward. The process is repeatable over time. And that's really what I see in the high performers. And that's really where business cases come in. I think what excites me most, or the data we see, is the modern sale is collaborative business case building alongside your prospective client. I think we've seen this in fits and spurts, over God knows how many years. We always saw the stat that buyers do 80% of their research before they ever talk to you. But what we see now is when you're collaboratively building a business case, that is the number one high intent signal that someone wants to make a change. If they're commenting on the business case, if they're tweaking the assumptions in a business case, they're taking all that research that they've done before they've ever talked to you, they're translating it into the impact to their business, and they're crafting the business case to whatever it is they need to present internally. So to me, if your process doesn't include kind of collaborative business case building, you're falling short because your competitors are likely doing it. And it's also a great signal. Great way to qualify out. If they're not going to engage, so be it. But those who are engaged and collaboratively building it alongside you, you got to put all your time and effort in there.
That's
And
a
it all
really
goes
good
back to
point.
process. You have to have the process to collect the data, to work them through how you're going to work together to get this initiative landed and implemented and ramped. And the business case is just so critical in that process.
Obviously, I couldn't agree more on that. But what's really interesting about that point is we can track, and the managers at sales team managers at our customers can now track the win rate probability based on the engagement on a business case between the sales rep and the buyer. If that buyer has accepted the invite and is engaged and active and shared it with stakeholders, that win rate increases dramatically because they're literally using that tool, that business case, to
Yes.
decide on not even what, but when with you and today.
Right. And that's all we're searching for in the world
Yeah.
of sales.
Certainty.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, okay, we talked about process, we talked about the calmness, but yeah, it's still the rush of Q4 is like nothing else, right?
Yeah.
What is the craziest thing that you've ever seen or you've ever done to get a
Yeah.
deal over the line by December 31st or whenever your Q4 fiscal is?
Yeah, I can think back to this year in January. So we have our sales wins channel. here at Stripe Slack channel where sellers are posting their wins. And the one that really stuck out to me, an absolutely fantastic seller working a large deal. But he posted a picture of him with a glass of champagne for the midnight ball drop on the right and his laptop fully open and engaged on the left to get a deal across the line. And just matching the energy and the pace of his prospective client. Everybody wanted to get that deal done by the end of the year, and it was just a beautiful visual of like that's what it looks like come December 31st.
Hello. It's that, like I said, it's that energy. I mean, the best thing about sales is that the target is so clear. You've got a number, you break that down into individual components to get to that number. And if you follow that process and you have enough slack built into that, then you
Yep.
should be able to hit it, right? Especially when you've got such a great product.
100%. And I think the beautiful thing about Q4 and the end of Q4 is we all know how businesses work. Your client knows how their own business works, and you want to be on that roadmap, right? Because doing things in the middle of the year, not so fun. A lot of approvals and exceptions that you have to grant, but you can be a natural part of the business and their goals next year if you sign that deal by the end of
I
Q4.
love it.
So it's
I love it.
very clear cut and fun.
And what percentage it could be across all the companies you worked with, but what percentage of deals that close in Q4, how would you break down in terms of deals that were pipeline generated in Q2, Q3,
Yeah.
and how many actually are net new in Q4 that close in Q4? How would you break it down?
Yeah. So what I've seen historically is you kind of get that long burn all leading up to Q4. So you're working so hard to establish relationships, hit the ground, hit the field, Q1 through Q3. And then you get those real data signals in Q4 as to, okay, who's actually going to do this with me? So I feel like most of the pipeline that's closed in Q4, you've been working on for the entire course of the year. Getting up and down on a deal in Q4, something I rarely see, but it's a great reminder of like, this is the long-term process. All those conversations you have, all those relationships you've built, when the rubber meets the road in Q4, it's because you were working hard for the other 3 quarters. So you get to reap your benefits, and that's when the clients come knocking.
And how many deals do you see, or what percentage are a pull forward to try to make up for maybe a gap in pipeline?
Yeah, there's always that bridge the gap in that any company that you're working with. Um, the creativity seems to be endless in Q4, right, Marian? It's like, wow, I never thought of that. I didn't even know anyone could do that, but here we are. We're making it happen. I mean, you're probably looking at 25-30% of deals that you're trying to pull forward, because yeah, it's just the natural way of bridging the gap is being creative, getting the deals done in Q4, and then hitting the ground with implementation early next year. Because that's
Yes.
really a lot of the riddle in our business compared to other ones. We don't make money. The clients don't see the positive business outcomes until we're up and running and moving volume through our infrastructure. So those projects take a while, and you gotta get them started early in the year. So close them in Q4, do the hard work in Q1 of the next year.
Awesome. I love it. Chris, thank you so much. This has been
Thank you.
fantastic.
So fun. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Chris.